Trigger warning. In this video, the topics of rape, rape culture, child grooming and child abuse, racially motivated violence, and other potentially disturbing topics will be discussed. Please be advised going forward. If you feel uncomfortable watching further, please close this video. On Wednesday, the 15th of July, 2020, Lillee Jean released a video on her YouTube channel, where she calls the negative reaction to her deplorable words and actions the work of a quote, mental rapist. This is the second time in as many months that she has made comparisons to her own behavior and the reaction to it to literal crimes of violence. In this video, we'll go over several of the disturbing statements Lillee Jean has made, and explain why such statements are incredibly harmful. In this video, however, I won't be touching on her racist statements in her podcast, as I've already gone over those in the past. Additional videos on why her comments on race in that podcast are so wrong will be included in the description box below.
To accept this type of mental abuse by somebody who's a mental rapist is, that should not be.
Let's define some terminology in this section. Rape is a type of sexual assault usually involving sexual intercourse or other forms of sexual penetration carried out against a person without that person's consent. The act may be carried out by physical force, coercion, abuse of authority, or against a person who is incapable of giving valid consent, such as one who is unconscious, incapacitated, has an intellectual disability or is below the legal age of consent. Rape culture is a sociological concept for a setting in which rape is pervasive and normalized due to societal attitudes about gender and sexuality. Behaviors commonly associated with rape culture include victim blaming, slut-shaming, sexual objectification, trivializing rape, denial of widespread rape, refusing to acknowledge the harm caused by sexual violence, or some combination of these. In the previous clip, Lillee Jean compares criticism she has received to being mentally raped. This statement is a clear example of trivializing rape. Writer Prachigupta explains why this is so dangerous in an article for Cosmopolitan from July 2016. Quote, "Rape is not a colorful substitute for something that feels unpleasant or exploitative. Rape has a very specific meaning. According to the FBI, rape is defined as penetration, no matter how slight, of the vagina or anus with any body part or object, or oral penetration by a sex organ of another person, without the consent of the victim." And like rape jokes that mock victims and make light of a violent crime, these comments that use it to mean something else almost always betray a lack of understanding and empathy around sexual assault and further trivialize a crime that's already so overlooked in society. Comparing things that are not rape to rape devalues the experiences of all survivors of rape and sexual violence. According to the American Centers for Disease Control in 2010, 1 in 5 American women had been raped. 1 in 71 men had been raped. 1 in 21 men had been forced to penetrate someone against their will. These are official government statistics from 10 years ago and are likely outdated. Additionally, these statistics only included answers from people willing to report their rape to officials. In 2015, the United States Department of Justice estimated that only 34.8% of rapes had been reported to authorities. RAIN, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, estimates that for every 1,000 rapes, 384 are reported to police, 57 result in an arrest, 11 are referred for prosecution, 7 result in a felony conviction, and 6 result in incarceration. This is a massive social issue, and it remains underreported, underprosecuted, and disgustingly prevalent across the globe. To trivialize rape by making clumsy and insensitive comparisons is to perpetuate rape culture. As writer Tilly Grove wrote in the Huffington Post in 2015, the word rape is used everywhere to mean things that aren't rape or anything like it, but it's near impossible to get people to talk about rape when it happens. Clearly, rape means everything except for what it is, sex without informed consent, and people would rather ignore its occurrence and prevalence than acknowledge it as the widespread, everyday reality that it is. As a survivor of rape myself, I personally call upon Lillee Jean to retract her statement and issue a sincere apology for drawing such an insensitive, disrespectful, and harmful comparison. She may feel violated, and that is her right. But to compare the actions of individuals calling her out to rape is not only out of line on her part, it's also dangerous and perpetuates rape culture, trivializing the everyday lived experiences of millions and millions of people around the world. Now, if this latest example were the only time Lillee Jean made insensitive comments about acts of violence in one of her videos, we could end this here. But unfortunately, she has a history of making such statements. In a video from the 1st of June, 2020, Lillee Jean compares feedback she has received to the murder of George Floyd at the hands of police officers.
But, my God, so I can't draw, I can't blend, I can't even earn an achievement? It's like people are verbally murdering me. It's horrible. And you know, with what just happened to this poor man of color, and to see people still on about this drama, I'm disgusted. Okay, this man deserves justice, and it's not just him, although he was the tipping point, it's everybody who's person of color just getting shot for being who they are.
The reasons why such a declaration is harmful have been stated by multiple other content creators, whose videos will be linked below. This statement has also been called out across social media, via Twitter, Instagram, and other platforms. Yet Lillee Jean has yet to apologize for comparing the critical feedback she receives to the actual murder of an actual human being. And while she did indeed provide links to petitions and donation funds in some of her video descriptions, to this day she hasn't even acknowledged that her words were highly insensitive at best. Murder is defined as the unlawful killing of another human without justification or valid excuse, especially the unlawful killing of another human with malice aforethought, premeditation. In no way does anything Lillee Jean has experienced equate to her being murdered. The comparison is made worse by invoking, but not naming, George Floyd, whose murder by Minneapolis police officers in May 2020 gave rise to further protests against police violence against people of color and other forms of institutional racism. In this last section, we'll be discussing Lillee Jean's infamous birthday live stream from April 2020, wherein she advised her fans that child grooming isn't illegal unless it is reported to authorities, and that parental consent means it isn't a crime. I'll be showing clips from her live stream, but the entire video is available on YouTube and will be linked below.
Let's see, how's my boyfriend? I see you. So, when I was 9, Peep was... I suck at math. I'm like a stupid fucking blonde. We're gonna let that one sit. Yeah? What's wrong with that? See, this is why I don't want to put him on my stories, on my video, because I say that we're like 9 years apart and it's like a problem for people. Yet I'm a legal adult and we've like known each other. And as long as you have consent from a parent, it's fine. Anyways, no. Illegal is when you report it and it's not consent. If your parents agree to it, it's fine. It's illegal to date a minor, yes, if you report it and it's like not consensual and something's weird, and some people just the asses do that. Like, I do think it's weird somebody 12 dating somebody 30. That's like, huh? I don't think it's weird somebody 12 dating somebody 17. I don't think that. That's just me, personally.
In the live stream, Lillee Jean claims that her boyfriend, Philippe, is 9 years older than her and that they met when she was 9 years old. While Lillee Jean struggles with addition, this would make Philippe 18 years old at the time they began their friendship. She also claims that they began their romantic relationship when she was 14 years old. This would make Philippe 23 years old when their romantic involvement began, and age 28 years at the time of the recording. Let's again go over a few important definitions as we go further into this section. The age of consent is the age at which a person is considered to be legally competent to consent to sexual acts. Consequently, an adult who engages in sexual activity with a person younger than the age of consent is unable to legally claim that the sexual activity was consensual, and such sexual activity may be considered child sexual abuse or statutory rape. The person below the minimum age is regarded as the victim, and their sex partner is regarded as the offender, unless both are underage. The purpose of setting an age of consent is to protect an underage person from sexual advances. Child grooming is befriending and establishing an emotional connection with a child, and sometimes the family, to lower the child's inhibitions with the objective of sexual abuse. To establish a good relationship with a child and the child's family, child groomers might do several things. They might try to gain the child's or parents' trust by befriending them, with the goal of easy access to the child. A trusting relationship with a family means the child's parents are less likely to believe potential accusations. Child groomers might look for opportunities to have time alone with the child, which can be done by offering to babysit. The groomers may also invite the child for sleepovers, for opportunistic bed sharing. Both Lillee Jean and her mother Laura Truman describe Philippe as a longtime family friend, and Laura admitted in a video from May 2020 that he and Lillee Jean were allowed unsupervised time alone in Lillee Jean's bedroom before she was an adult. In New York, where Lillee Jean resides, it is illegal for an adult, someone 18 or older, to have sex with a minor, someone younger than 17, even if the sex is consensual. Those who break the law have committed statutory rape. In New York State, parental consent is not considered a defense for statutory rape. In fact, the state itself is allowed to press charges if the parent declines to do so. The legality of the offense does not hinge on whether or not the crime has been reported to authorities. It is illegal for an adult to sexually pursue a child regardless of if the police are involved. To be clear, no one knows for certain if Lillee Jean is a victim of child grooming and abuse. For all we know, she and Philippe maintained a chaste relationship for the first 3 or so years of their romantic involvement. In fact, there is quite a bit of evidence that Philippe doesn't even exist and is a figment of Lillee's and Laura's collective imagination. If either of these is the case, this doesn't absolve her of having spread dangerous misinformation to her mostly underage audience who look up to her as a role model. By stating that it isn't illegal for adults and children to engage in romantic relationships, she is normalizing the abuse of children. And while her mother, Laura Truman, has attempted to speak up in Lillee Jean's defense, she claimed that because she'd never heard of grooming it couldn't have happened to her daughter. Again, this is misinformation that could potentially endanger her young audience by convincing them that it's acceptable and totally legal for children and adults to form romantic relationships. If she has been victimized by a child sexual predator, I hope Lillee Jean will find the justice and resolution she deserves. I also hope that Lillee Jean will be more thoughtful when choosing her words, especially when it comes to topics which are very sensitive. Drawing comparisons to violent crimes when describing perceived slights against her is appalling. Giving incorrect and dangerous advice to her young fans is irresponsible. My hope is that Lillee Jean will at least try to make amends for her words, and more so that she will stop being so careless with her statements going forward. It's a lot to hope for, considering her track record of denial, false apologies and complete silence, but one can only hope.